everyone. This is Talk Back. And why am I wearing a hat? What is under my hat? Well, I don't have as much under my hat as my guest does. She's the expert in hat wearing. And I want to put her on the screen now. We're going to have some time to interview and talk to Florence Klein. She's in Washington State, but she's from Philadelphia. That's what it's all about. And she has more under her hat than I could ever hope to have. Hi, Florence. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Okay. So Florence is a citizen of the world, starting out in Philadelphia, a trailblazer, and we're going to be showing some uh, film from PowerPoint display that she will talk about. But I just want to show you, this is her book, Under the Hat. I had the pleasure of reading it and I had the pleasure of talking to her about it in Philadelphia at the Cosmopolitan Club, a wonderful day back in December, I guess it was. And so I want her to tell her story to you. Let's talk about it. So, Florence, here's how I'm going to start because at the very beginning of your book, you say when you were 12 years old. Now, don't forget, you're almost. Do you mind telling us how old you are? Is that a good
It's okay.
question?
It's in the book, so I don't have a
I
choice.
I mean, it's great because you were born in 1934, so it's going to be very soon 90 years, right?
That's correct.
What's the date in March?
Sixth.
Okay. Happy pre-birthday. All
Thank
right. Well, they were in the right year. And I'm 44. I'm a great year also with ending in four. So we're good that way. So just think about it. In 1934, what were young girls thinking about? How many 12-year-old girls in 1934, 12 years would be 1946, said to themselves, I have to be in charge of my life. I'm the only one that can do it for me. How many kids say that? And then when they're 82 years old, they say to themselves, oh, people tell me I'm a trailblazer. No idea I was that. I just went out and did stuff, right? All right.
correct.
All right. So how did you get to be 12 years old in Philadelphia and say to the world, you know what? It's up to me. I'm going to be in charge of my own life, no one else.
I Everyone has asked me that, and they ask me what what event or what trauma happened that made you say that. And honestly, I remember saying it. I know exactly where I stood in my bedroom, the back wall, looking out the window, and I knew that that's how I had to be. And it didn't really occur overnight that I would think about it a lot, and never did that much until I started doing a lot of writing. And I realized that's how it really provoked and led me throughout my life, because I always just did.
Do you think as you went along in life that you distinguished yourself from other women and that you were much more independent, outspoken, much more in touch with your feelings, your ambitions than maybe your fellow, I shouldn't say the word fellow, your friends, your women were at that time in our history?
I didn't realize that I was that different. I just knew that I wasn't always part of the crowd.
Mm,
I always sort of stayed a little outside the crowd of girls that would get together in junior high school or high school. And I
yeah.
realized that that made me different, but I never thought, oh, geez, I'm different, because I had uh, things that I wanted to do.
Yeah. So we'll get back to a little bit about the history, but you talk about having six professions. So I want us to start off listing them now. First of all, the one that spurred you on and gave you the confidence to move on to other work was that you became the very first woman stockbroker in Philadelphia. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so now name the others. That's one. We have five more to go of your professions.
I became one of the first women developers nationwide for developing old buildings into condominiums, and one became certified so that it can't be torn down. So it's a national structure, and that was so that was number two. I also decided that seniors needed help, and so I started a website called Silver Planet for Seniors. So that's three. Wow. I volunteered at prisons, and at the most severe prison. I also uh, became a model, even though I modeled a lot during the here and there. But more recently, when I moved to Seattle, I got an agent, and so I do some modeling when I have time now, and also to try to get some acting in.
So that's five. Oh, wait, we have stockbroker,
Yeah,
C website
doctor,
developer,
real
actress, and model.
right.
And six is, you're
The vol.
forgetting the most, no, the sixth is author,
Oh, right,
right?
writing,
I
writing.
think now you're an author. I think that's should be the sixth. Okay. So it all started in Philadelphia in 1934. So I'm going to just take the privilege of saying that I read the book, and it was very moving about your family life, and because you're so honest about your mother having some serious limitations. She had some serious psychological depressive issues, and she couldn't really parent you, you and your brother 100%. And using my amateur psychology, I'm saying that was part of your feeling as you grew up, and because your dad was there, but he was working and busy. That was part of the feelings that you had. I'm on my own in this life. I mean, I love my parents and I love my mother, and I know she wants the best for me, but she can't really fulfill all that I need. So I'm going to take charge of my life. Tell me that I'm on the right track a little bit.
Yeah, yes. Um, of course, at 12, I now realize that was an amazing statement that came out of me, and I never discussed it with anyone until I was in my 80s. I never even talked about it. And so it wasn't something that motivated me at the time, but mother was lovely, but she couldn't relate to me. She thought that I was always, as they say in Yiddish, clarion on. I was always thinking about things, and I think that I can remember that she would say to me, because she couldn't really understand how my thinking was.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you had a younger brother too, right?
yes, 4 years
But
younger.
he really wasn't a big part of your life growing up, right? You were pretty much separate in a way.
Yes, yes. He is sweet, very sweet man. Um, and my he died 8 years ago, I think, already.
Right. So although your mother, what too soon? Yes. Although your mother had her psychological issues, and it was a burden on your dad, she still, as you talk, was able to go into the store that your parents had. Would you tell us about the store in Philadelphia, what your dad did?
My dad was a tailor. He came from Russia or Ukraine. I'm not quite sure, but I think Russia, closer to Poland. And he came with his brothers and family, and his two brothers uh, were tailors, and they had their stores in Philadelphia. And he was a sweet man, and but work was very hard. I mean, it was piecework, and so I could see him sitting at the kitchen table counting the tickets, because you count tickets if he's working for a manufacturer of women's clothing. And so
Yeah.
he would count the tickets and make sure how much. But in those years, it was Depression years. It was very hard to get steady work. And so it was hard. And so we moved around a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say that you had many different residents, but all within the city of Philadelphia.
Within the Philadelphia, but then
Yeah,
moved to New York City. And my brother Lou was born in Brooklyn.
yeah. But you didn't stay that long in New York. You went back to Philadelphia at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. The thing I most remember is going and walking in Coney Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So, because that was about 1938 when you were 4 years old, he was just born,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So, but as you described it, your mother was very active in a way in the store. She went in, she was the receptionist. Her
That was,
personality was
yeah.
yeah.
But my dad wasn't able to have his own store till about 40, almost toward the end of the war, of Second World War.
Mhm.
And then she was able to, come to the front of the store and wait on a few customers. Uh, but she never had the confidence to go out until till the very end of her life, actually.
Yeah. But you were also close with your mother's brother, Emil, who
Yes.
was a big influence on you. He was a confidant of a sort and well, your champion through a lot of your life, right?
Yes. 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 He lived in California all his life. Yes. But I always went out to see him. Yes. He was a good part
Okay.
of my life.
Yes. And then you also had your grandma Ida in your life. Now, whose mother was she?
Emil's mother.
Uh-huh. Emil and your mother's mother. And you would visit her. You'd spend a lot of weekends with your grandmother.
Grandma, yeah, not only weekends, every Christmas, every um, school days that were
Yeah.
off, Easter,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
summertime, I would come down with her.
Right. And although you describe her as, of course, a loving grandmother, she wasn't very touchy-feely, very
No, she wasn't
emotional,
touchy
very
and
yeah.
feeling at all. No.
So even there, you were in a way on your own, unless you had friends in the neighborhood near your grandma, or you were basically on your own much of the time, right? What that you were there.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Most of the
Yeah,
time, there was only two girls sometimes that lived upstairs, and we were on the first floor in a
yeah.
small house on Jackson
So
Street.
So as you say, as you went through the Depression years and leading into the 40s, and your father still kept his career in the tailoring business, were you lower middle class, middle class? Where do you think you fit in terms of the economy?
Lower middle class. I
Lower
mean,
middle
yeah,
class.
I mean, we moved because there was no work, and so we
Yeah.
had to move from one place to another, and never until he was able to have his own shop in Southwest Philadelphia, that we were able to move and I buy a home.
Right.
In,
But did you ever feel deprived? Because as you went through life, you always had, to my opinion, reading your book and knowing you a little bit, you always had the flair to make do, to dress well, to look put together just right. You were very pretty, you were attractive as a young person. You even talk about the fact that one night you had 3 dates, not just one date. And tell us how did you feel about being deprived and that yet dressing yourself and presenting yourself as a young
I
person.
never I never felt deprived, and I never felt, "Oh gosh, I was poor." I guess on the economic level today, yes, but I never felt poor. We were never homeless or hungry, and so uh, it just came naturally, and I was able to enjoy a wonderful adolescence because I had tons of dates, and it was fun, and it was a very fun, easy time for me, and school was easy, and so I never felt deprived at all. And people say, well, but gee whiz, you moved around so much, maybe, you would feel bad about it. I guess looking back, the reasons I never had real close friends, because,
Yeah,
I didn't stay in a neighborhood long enough.
right. And you went to, then I assume you went to different schools, different high schools?
Uh, a high school, I went to only one high
Oh, well,
school.
that's good. Mhm.
Yes.
That's good. So by the time you were a teenager, we're in the middle toward the end of, you lived through World War One as a young girl, old enough to semi understand what was going on. Tell us about your thoughts. What was it like growing up in the 30s and in the 40s, in the pre-war years, learning about Hitler, if you did you study that in school? And then, of course, into the 40s and then the end of the war. What was it like for you?
Um, I was always concerned about the world, um, and we would take we uh, there was rationing, so we rationed, and we had stamps in a book that we would have to take to get extra meat or sugar or certain of the areas that were rationed. We also would give money to the uh, whatever we made, babysitting or whatever, to this school, and they would take it like a dollar or two, and to the war War II effort. Um, so that was always, and my father always listened to the news on the radio. We didn't have a phone for many years, and a, a television was way later than that. Um,
Right.
but
So so radio must have been a big part of life during that time,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Radio,
I
yes.
loved listening to the radio. I would walk home from school and listen to Kate Smith and
Wow.
sing, and all this Captain Midnight, and yes, that was
And
part
was
of.
this, and this was a social gathering too of the family, right? Didn't the whole family sit around and listen to FDR? Did you ever hear the president
Oh
speak?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Had,
Lou and my mother were not that attentive to that as I was. I was always interested in listening, and my dad always, and he read the uh, Jewish paper, the forwards, and
mhm.
so I always kind of wanted to know more.
Right, right. So, what were you were a good student as well, I understand. So what were your favorite subjects in school? What were you interested in?
What was I interested in? History and English
Mhm,
primarily, and it was a sideline to me because I had to work. I worked Wednesdays Wednesday after school and Saturday from the time I was in eighth grade, and so otherwise, I couldn't ask my parents for money. They didn't
mm,
have it, and if I wanted to go out, uh, even if it was to the movies we would go to the movies early on, on a Saturday afternoon. I never asked my parents for money. And then I started to babysit. And at that time, I made 75 cents an hour. That was a lot of money
A lot
early
then,
on. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
By the time I started doing it, it went up to a dollar, I think, right?
Okay. You're
Something
right.
like that. Right, right. So, so your high school years was there talk about, because I know you lived through the years that encompassed the Holocaust and the terrible tragedies that were happening in Europe, or even in America when you were, well, when you were very young, we had the anti-Semitism, we had the America First, we had a lot of people who didn't want Roosevelt to take us into war, did not want to help the Jews in Europe. Did you have any in with your classmates, with your teachers, and general life in your synagogue in Philadelphia? Was there any discussion of that? What was the feeling? What was going on?
Not necessarily general discussions like today. Um, that was different. Uh, I moved into, let's say, a more stable life when I was early fifth grade. And so then I would walk to school, and we knew what was going on, but it wasn't something that we talked about so much. The teacher would say, okay, who's going to contribute $2 or a dollar? And I was more interested in walking to the library and getting my books. And my mother would say, what are you doing carrying all those books? And
Yeah.
she couldn't understand that I would be, that's where my interest was. And we didn't belong to a synagogue at that time. I went to a couple, maybe on the holidays, I would go with a bunch of girls or
Did you
whoever.
have any family members or parents, grandparents of your friends who were serving in the military, who were in Europe or in in
No,
Asia? No, you
no,
didn't know that.
no,
Okay.
none of that. No.
So when you graduated high school, so you always worked even during high school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, always. Yes. I mean, there was no, and it wasn't a chore to work. I enjoyed working. It was not, I never complained about it. I still don't. That's why I'm
Right.
still working. And,
Right.
but I think it's just part of who I am, and I enjoy
Right.
it. I never thought that work or working was an on my back or that I had to stop. I mean, it was very natural. And you work, selling shoes on a Saturday in town. And it gave me experiences to have early on.
Mhm, mhm. So you graduate high school, you're pretty popular. I even read that you entered into a beauty pageant was it when you were your first year of college?
Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh.
Wow.
At Penn State, I started at Penn State. And because I graduated in the half year at that time, I was able to go right into Penn State University, and barely had the money to contribute. It was a couple $100 a term, and I didn't have the money for a while. But I went right after high school, and then they had a contest for uh, the most I don't think it was popular. I don't know. It was based on looks, I guess. And I went and was in the most independent woman in Penn State at that time, up in campus.
Did you come? Did you get far up the competition?
No, I don't
Uh,
know how. No, I don't know. I didn't. I wasn't
okay.
number one, but whatever.
Okay. All right. But you weren't able to stay at Penn State because of financial issues, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah. And so you went back to the city and you started work. What was your first job? You're out after college, after
Well,
that year of
I got
college.
married so early.
Okay. All right. So
I got
tell us about that.
Uh, I married a very nice man, and we got married. I was barely 20 years old. It was,
Yeah.
and I realized I was way too early, but that's what I did. That's what we did at that time. We were
Hmm.
supposed to get married, women get married and have children.
Right. And the interesting thing is also that you said very honestly in the book that you probably shouldn't have gotten married at age 20, but that's what you
I
said. That's
did.
what they
I
did.
know.
That's what they did back then. But that still did not stop you from pursuing careers outside of the home. And you always made arrangements between your husband and Marie, a woman who came to your home to help you with the family. But so you had three kids, right? You had three children.
Right.
Just
Yes.
tell us a little bit about each one when you had them.
Well, Karen was oldest, and then two, and she's an attorney now and lives in Bainbridge Island, Washington, close to me. And she's very successful and very social person and very credible in her community and is very much aware of social action and very much part of life. Kim lives in Waco and she's involved in her community, which is a Christian community. And she married a Israeli young man who's very involved in the community. And Jeff is my youngest, and he's lives in Ohio, and he has a very successful son and a daughter. And Kim's my uh, granddaughter is actually 25 today.
Oh, wow.
So
Happy birthday. Yeah.
from from Ohio, yes. And daughter, uh, my other daughter Kim has three daughters. One got married in 22, and uh, Karen has a son, Ryan, who is um, a skier, major
Mhm.
skier.
Okay.
Yes,
So you have six grandchildren altogether, right?
correct. Right.
That's terrific. So I'm pointing that out because you established a more first, what you might consider traditional path. You're very young, right out of college or right out of school, getting married, having children. You didn't space them very far apart, right? You had
2 years and
pretty much,
3 months.
right, pretty much close together. But not despite that, in addition to that, and you do credit, even though we will go ahead a little bit and say that you and your husband eventually did not stay together. Your lives just kind of went apart
Instead of
as you went on. You still have a great deal of gratitude and admiration for the way he supported you. I mean,
yes,
right?
it was
He
very
supported you,
unusual. In
right?
those years, it was very unusual for a woman to work full time in other than as a librarian, as a teacher, maybe as a travel agent. And what was important in those years is that the mother would always have to be home to uh, be there when the kids came home from school. And so that was unusual. And one of the things my mother always said to me, or not always, but said to me, when I started to work full time, she says, Florence, you know, the children are going to come in the door, and you're going, and they're going to say, Mom, and you're not going to be there, or Mother. Yeah. She never said Mom, it was Mother. And I said, I understand that, Mother, but I have to do what I have to do for myself.
And so the debate became, for many, many women, yes, and you have expressed it in your book. You just basically honestly said, just staying at home with the children, as much as I love them, was too limiting and too boring in many respects for me. I had to make my separate way in the world. But everybody asks, do you think you are able to balance those individual needs you had to move forward in your different careers with, with your family life? You feel like you made a good blend that way because you had the help of your husband and this Marie, who helped out as well.
I don't think they get, I have 3 quality children, and I'm very proud of each one of them, and they're each different. And maybe they missed some things, but I don't know too much. They all graduated from college, and they all have very successful lives themselves. So I don't, I was a little different than most mothers, but I don't think that they lost too much. At least so far, they've turned out very well. So I'm very proud of them.
Okay. So when you started in the work world, did you have an ambition? Were you heading toward the financial world, or did it just happen because of the job that you got?
Well, when I moved into our home in a lovely suburban area, I was there about 2.5 years, maybe, and I said, I have to work. And so there was a aircraft financing position available less than 8 minutes away from the house. And I applied, and it was aircraft financing. And after a year, and I did accounting, financing, cost accounting with them. And I realized after a year and a half, it wasn't stimulating enough to me. And I said to myself, it's not enough. And the most fun I had was flying with the owner in his plane to see another client or something. And so I decided I wanted something else. And so I started to look at different areas that I could find that would be challenging. And so I looked at hospital administration, because that was just starting then. And then someone said to me, did you ever think of being a broker? And I said, not really. We had a couple stocks, but nothing special. And he said, well, you might enjoy it. So I found, I thought that was interesting. I looked into it a little and went down to interview 3 firms in Center City, Philadelphia, because I lived in the suburbs. And the one I selected was different because it started financial planning, and financial planning at that time was not done. It's only now that people always have, it's financial planning is part of the rigor of just living. And so I was accepted by Bob Robinson from the Robinson Company at that time in Center City, Philadelphia. And the owner was a son of a, a very wealthy company, and he had decided to set up a small brokerage firm. And I got accepted, and he asked me, well, what do you expect out of the first year, after you get all the licensing and all? And I said, well, $10,000 a year probably would be fine.
That was a
So
big salary back then, right?
that was
Yeah,
19.
yeah.
And yes, and so that was my start.
Okay. So are we just, this is a side point about your husband, your supportive husband. He felt the responsibility to work in his family's business, right? Was that some kind of store?
Yeah, it was a store that's been in, I think it's now the fifth generation Klein store, supermarket, small supermarket in the center of Philadelphia now.
Okay. So it's interesting. He too felt he needed more fulfillment from work. And when he was older, he went and got his degree in social work. Is that right?
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
So you must have been proud of him for that,
Yes,
for doing that.
he's he's a nice man. He was always a fine man. He's still alive, not doing well, but he's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the entree. The Robinson Company was your entree. When you were there, how many women were in positions that were equal to yours when you first started?
None,
None.
none.
So how did you fit, what kind of uh, stereotyping or discrimination, anti-woman, did you get any of those feelings from the other men who worked with you in that company during those years?
Um, no, I considered myself a professional woman and a mother. And so that's how I conducted myself. And I had very little interaction with the other men. In Robinson, there were about 35 or 40 men, and they were they didn't talk to me or help me with anything. And after a while, because I was very aggressive in getting new kinds of business that, like new issues that they hadn't been introduced to a small firm, uh, they were shocked and uh, other than other things that may have happened, but I didn't have any interaction with any of the men at all.
So it's interesting, you were almost given free rein. They were happy enough with you being there. You were producing, you were getting new product, I'm assuming new investment opportunities with different companies, and you must have done some studying, because one of the things that you say in your book is you really never had a mentor. You never had someone in the financial world that took you in hand. Was there anybody that gave you
No, 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 no
it
one.
was all self-taught?
Well,
How
yeah,
did you teach
well, they
yourself?
had a court. Don't forget, you have to. If you go in, you have to be registered, and you have to pass the exams. 3, 6, 7, and so it was at least 6 months before I was fully registered that I could solicit clients. And because I had no one that was in the family, I had to find my own clients. And so I used something very unique, a big yellow pad with 33 lines in it, and found the clients, especially initially, by cold calling. And that's what I
Mm.
did.
Wow. But in terms of the subject matter, the body of knowledge that you needed to be a financial planner, to be a stockbroker, you did that all on your own. You studied that basically all on your own?
Well, the course was from this Robinson and
Yeah,
yeah, and
right,
yeah, and it's not like I made up the courses, no.
right, yeah,
But when it came to and the courses which I started in financial planning were so well designed that they're still valid today.
wow, yeah. So you were on your way, and eventually you could. How long did it take you before you got the title stockbroker?
Oh, well, once I passed the exam.
Okay, so it wasn't, is it financial planner, stockbroker, all one and the same, basically?
Yes, yeah, financial planning is part of what a broker does. Some brokers maybe specialize in corporate accounts and they won't, so it wouldn't be financial planning, it would be financial
Right,
planning for the corporation or
right,
so it would be different from each person, but stockbroker is really not used as much now as the investment professional,
right,
and they were all men, and they were
right.
all men. And even today, there are many, many women in uh, the financial world, but not, it's not equal even
Not
today.
equals even today. So what was so interesting is that you were really in a way on the ground floor of going out personally in the evenings. And you talk about how your husband wanted you to be safe and be careful as you traveled. You went to people's homes. Usually it was a couple, a husband and a wife.
Yes.
And the wife would never talk to you without the husband being there together. They
Oh,
made these,
absolutely.
yeah, right. But you were doing a valuable service, trying to help plan their financial futures um, through their investments, and you recommended investments for them and a plan for the future years. That's a great, great job. You must have gotten a lot of gratification from that.
It was, well, I, I had a financial plan. I knew what, when I went into someone's home, first of all, when I knocked on the door after I had made an appointment and the woman came to the door, she was a little shocked to see a woman with a hat and a suit on. And the first thing I did was come in and compliment them on color of their carpet or their pretty sofa, and we'd sit at a dining room table, the husband and wife, and I would start out is what do they want? Do they want, what objective do they have? They would want to say for their own home, if this was a apartment or rented or something. Do they want for retirement? Do they want to send a child to college? So once I knew what their objective was, then I would have the plan prepared to know to advise them. And that, so initially they were all just thought as individuals. And later on, I branched out quite a bit, of course.
And then represented companies, corporations, and right, and
And state governments. I represented,
governments.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
And at one point toward the end of your stockbroker career, you had your own, it was in an all-female firm at one point?
uh, no, I had a one man originally.
Oh, you
Yes,
did
I was
with
one of
you?
the first woman-owned broker dealers
Oh,
in the country.
okay.
So I was a broker dealer and had my own firm uh, uh, up until I moved to Colorado.
Okay. And then as a mover and shaker in the financial world in Philadelphia, you branched out to do what you saw was happening in cities like New York, where they were taking old warehouses and old company buildings that instead of demolishing them, they were reconfiguring them and renovating them and making them into loft apartments and condominiums. And
Yes.
you're a suburban person, right? With your three kids in the suburbs. And you said, I want to do that to Philadelphia. How did you get that idea? When did that come
Well,
to you?
I was a broker, and I would walk around. I wanted to move into Philadelphia because I was commuting every day. And I thought, the kids were older, and uh, they didn't need any care at home. They were all in schools already. And so I decided uh, to find a place in town. So that was the start of why I started developing. So I started to look around, and I couldn't find anything in Philadelphia that was had large windows, because a lot of the homes in Philadelphia are narrow and small windows. And so I finally found something that I could develop. And I formed a little company, and we started out on Letitia Court, which was named after Ben Franklin's daughter,
Oh,
Letitia. And anyway, and then that first one was sold into apartments, which is still used. And then I found something I could buy with my husband at the time, and the building in Old City, Philadelphia, that was a chocolate factory initially. And we converted into loft apartments, which was new in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is not the first to do things.
mm,
That's for sure. So um, they I made 8 condominiums, and I said a little bit of lofts in Old City, Philadelphia, and that was the
right.
beginning of developing. Uh, and then I saw that other buildings in Old City needed to be converted, and
Right.
so I started that.
You were, and we can't gloss over the fact that you did, while your children were in school, you went back to school to get your college degree. How did that
Again,
happen?
yeah, I got well, after, I had only, finished, 2 years, and I finished at Wharton.
At
In
Wharton,
Mhm. Yeah, and that was and I graduated from Wharton in '79.
right? And that's a very good economic school, right? For,
Rather, yes. Yes, in
yeah,
fact,
right.
I just saw something this morning. I'm just gonna take a 6-week course. I saw that sounds interesting to me from Penn.
Oh, online, I assume, because right now we
Yes,
haven't gotten to that yet. You are in Bainbridge Island, Washington State, right? You're not
right,
in Philadelphia anymore,
correct.
but
Yeah,
your heart is still in Philadelphia, I gather.
I'm still an Easterner, yes.
Yes, yes. So, um, after you developed through this developments, and we'll show some of the slides of the places that you worked on, that you bought and transformed. You will show this. You were in the newspaper, a woman on the rise, a woman on the go, a woman transforming our properties into housing, in making Philadelphia into Soho. Um, but at some point you divorce and you meet someone else who's from Colorado, and then you move. Tell us about that.
No, actually, he was from, Philadelphia,
Oh, but he had a
but he
place
had a home. He was a big
at home.
he was a big skier, so he had a home
He had a
in
home in,
Colorado.
got
Yes,
it.
and so we moved to Colorado,
Yeah.
and
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 that was interesting because did you want to move? What was your feeling about moving and leaving Philadelphia? Why was it important for you to do that?
He didn't. Um, he didn't want to live in Center City, and I was living in the chocolate factory, and so at that time, uh, I moved. The children were all out of college, and moved to Colorado Springs.
Okay. And
And
did you sell your brokerage firm at that point? What did you do with that?
yeah, well, I had it, and when I moved, and then there were other differences and things that happened, and it was time to move on. And I started as Silver Planet.
Right. We'll get to that in a minute. But when you were in Colorado Springs, you also became involved, besides the Silver Planet website, which we'll talk about also, your sense of being a volunteer was very important to you. And one thing you did was revolutionize, transfer, keep alive the Hadassah chapter in
Yeah,
Colorado Springs, right? You became very active,
yes,
became the president,
yes, of the
revived the chapter, got it moving again, went
yes,
to Israel, and that was fulfilling for you.
very, yes.
Yeah, because tell me, what is your sense of yourself as as a Jew in terms of how you've practiced over the years, your beliefs and holidays and things? What is your level of involvement in that?
I belong to a synagogue. I've always belonged to a synagogue. My children were all bar and bas mitzvah, each one, and they were all confirmed. Um, I, being Jewish is part of who I am. It's inside of me. I don't have to go to all the sessions or all every Saturday, but being Jewish is part of who I am. It doesn't need any other explanation. It's who I am, and I believe in Judaism, and I've always felt, ever since I was small, the Ten Commandments were part of who I am as a person inside.
Right. So the other interest that you had was something that's important to me from my career. You worked with battered women, women who were abused, and you didn't just take out your checkbook and give money. You actually got in there with your hands and your heart and worked to help women through the court system as advocates for them. And this was
Yeah,
a very revolutionary time when you were doing this. This is when the work was just beginning with restraining orders and getting women to speak up. So talk about a little bit about your experiences with
when I
that.
moved to Colorado, I joined a, a group. Had to take a course for a couple months, and then I went to help in getting women, uh, help them if they had to get help with their husbands and they were all being abused. Had an incident that a woman came in and needed help. She was all battered. And I had just read about her in the newspaper. It turned out that her husband was in the service, an officer, and she was all beat up. And I tried to get her uh, to sign something so we could represent her. She could, and unfortunately, she couldn't even do that. And it was very fulfilling. And I worked with them, and also worked with also a group of young teenagers too at that time when I was in Colorado Springs.
Mm. Some of these teenagers had issues with some of them had some disabilities that you helped them with.
Uh, that group, disabilities were when I was in
Oh, okay.
Philadelphia that we started. That was one of the first that Len, my husband, started working with young people with disabilities, and
Oh,
we would have them grouped together. And as a matter of fact, I just had a meeting here in Bainbridge a couple of weeks ago with someone we're hiring for Rotary, because I'm a Rotarian too, and to help us in a Rotary meeting using just disadvantaged or compromised young people that have to, you can't throw these people away, which we used to do, lock them up in a room and and they're so valuable and they have so much to offer. We so easily discount people if they're not 100% everything, and that's not how I feel. And
right.
so
So, and another, I mean, we could go on and on. You have so many interests, things that you've contributed. Um, but some things that's really very fascinating, is you describe a lot about it in your book, is the work in prisons and even maximum security prisons. You did that, I think, in Philadelphia at first, and then you did it in Colorado as well. Talk about your interest in that, what you learned from it, what um, enlightenment you got out of doing that.
um, it was when I was going with my second husband, and he was very interested going out and visiting prison right outside of Philadelphia. And I would then start going into them, to the prisons, to look at. Initially, I formed a Philly project company within a sociologist, and we would go into a prison on a Saturday night to see a men. It was a male prison, and to help them if they were ready to come up for promotion, and so we would help them on a Saturday night. And then we tried to get them, we saw in prison systems are by state. So every state regulates the prisons. And in Pennsylvania, they had promotion ways in which they could leave and have 6 months in another home. But it was very difficult to get homes for people who were in prison.
Mm,
And then we wanted to get them jobs, because if they come out, they need work. And and so we, at one time with Philly Project, designed um, a growing tomatoes, organic tomatoes, and we spent months or more trying to find an area that we could acquire. It wasn't the money from This Is in Philly project, so that these people could actually learn to grow organic tomatoes and other vegetables. We couldn't find a place that the neighborhood would accept outside the
mm,
neighborhood. So you realize, if you're asking the question, what did I learn from that? Is people don't open up their eyes and their minds to realize not everybody can do everything. And you don't have to, just because they've been in prison or haven't had the right combination of education, that they need to be incorporated into and help. And that
yeah,
was important to me
right. Because
about.
one of the things that you talk about in the book, and that I agree with you, is that you would hope that the prisons are there to help people get reintegrated into regular society, and so that when they come out, they're prepared to have work. And the prisons really don't do enough of that. Not to mention, as you have, that in America, we have more people in prison per capita probably than any other country in the world. And the other thing that you mentioned is that so many prisons now are privately owned. And when you own a prison privately, you want to make money. And how do you make money? By filling the prison cells. So there's a contradiction. On the one hand, we're trying to rehabilitate. There's a movement to release nonviolent people who have been in jail for nonviolent crimes. Why should they be in jail? Why can't they have some outpatient, out jail experiences where they can be monitored and work? We don't have enough of that. But how can we have that if we give the responsibility for the buildings to private profit firms who are making money off of it? So, Florence, you've got to get to Congress or someplace to fix that all up. You've got to fix that up,
Well,
right?
it's really interesting, the prison system in each state, because I was familiar with actually 3 states, Colorado, Washington, and Pennsylvania. Each one is very different, and there's no probation in Washington, but in Washington they're doing something different, which I've just learned about. Is the men are getting together inside the prison and beginning to help each other in a seminar, and that is only new, and I haven't explored that yet, but it's so important because many states don't let the prisoners have GEDs, so they have nothing, and they don't give them anything to work at, so that they're able to come out of prison and have something that is financially stable for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was an eye-opening experience, and you probably also were able to connect on a human to human level with some of these people who probably don't know what grace and humanity really are, or don't have family or friends, and you were able to give them a few moments. Just, I remember you writing about being in the maximum security prison with the bars between you and the prisoner, and yet you were able to just listen, just be a listener as they spoke to you.
Yes, well, it's the most severe prison in the country, and either you have done something so horrible, like Karinsky, who just died in the maximum security prison, or you've killed another prisoner, that you're sent there, and it's
Yeah.
awful, and they they don't have visitors either. And when I was able to go there while I was in Colorado, you have to, make arrangements and sign all the documents, and they know you're coming, and so forth and so on. But it was horrifying to sit finally, after getting to the window where the prisoners are going to come in through the back, and they were shackled. They were shackled by their feet and their hands, and they could barely pick up the phone. And there was always a guard right outside their entrance. There was a glass, of course, and I was sitting on the other side. It was, but what I found out, that so many of these prisoners were very bright. And people think, oh, well, you were in prison, you're dumb or something. And that isn't true. And so that through the experience working with prisoners and working with people anyway, you have a bigger compassion and understanding of more people, I think. And that's so much needed today when we think of where we are and people are pulling themselves into tiny groups and don't have the opportunity to meet other people in other fields.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I feel.
Yes. And it's a very important topic that I wish our leaders would do more of. We do not give enough money to that, and we're shunting it off, as I said, onto the private sector, which doesn't help at all. It doesn't help at all. So, so important to you to have uh, intergenerational interaction. We're going to talk about that, but you went to Colorado Springs and you developed thinking how important it was for seniors to be more connected to each other and to the world. You started a website. That was a revolutionary thing to do. What year did you start your silver, what was it called?
Silver Planet.
Silver Planet website for seniors. When did you start that?
2003, I think, three or four. And I felt that seniors needed support. So I was in Colorado, and I said, you know what? Why don't seniors call up, have a phone? And I made arrangements. That was my idea. They would be connected either to a finance firm, which would have been mine, or physicians or attorneys. And so we could then direct that. As I started to develop that, I hired someone because I needed licenses. That woman, it turned out, couldn't act, and I got busy on something else. But then I realized I could have a website. And so I called it originally Silver Seniors. My seniors, I call the website. But that at that time, and maybe even today, but not as much, seniors were derided. People didn't like to know that they were seniors. And not that long ago, but that's true. And we changed the name to Silver Planet. And Silver Planet had a website that took, we had 20 different vendors for people could call in. They could also ask questions. They could get recipes and cookbooks. We had a big program, and unfortunately, the same needs at that time are still being needed today. And that's what's so sad about having the lack of understanding that just because you get to be 60 or 65 or 80 or 90, that doesn't mean that you can't do things and that you're not valuable. And so that's, I mean,
Yeah. You
that's where
talk
it is.
about, yeah, you have a whole chapter in your book about ageism and the fact that exactly what you just said, that we don't have it. I mean, we're having an issue now with whether President Biden, although he's 81, is he still capable of being president? I mean, it doesn't have to do with your gait, how you walk exactly. It's, what's in your mind and whether you still have the power like you do to go on and to be 100%. So absolutely, I think that you express it very well, and I would say in other countries in Asia and in other cultures, the elderly are revered as important mentors, and more than in America, where we often put our elders into homes, nursing homes. They live with families. There's extended family groupings in other nations where the elders are absolutely revered and honored and worshiped in many ways. Age and wisdom go together. In America, not so much, right? Not so much. We have a cult of youth, a cult of youth.
It's it is a cult of youth, and there's a lot of issues today about age, and we don't realize that ageism is not just for the seniors, it's also young people are also discriminated against. And in the book, I really have put into a lot of research in reading about it before I put it in the book. And it's important. Even commentators are very careless about using, "Oh, you're too old." "Oh, well,
Yeah,
you're too old," and don't realize how negative that is.
yeah,
Or you're too young. You can't do that job.
right, right. So that the other thing that you talked about, this is something that I've faced in some of the committees that I'm on. I'm involved in elder abuse, elder law issues. And we often debate, shall we call them seniors? And I think in your book, you said you don't like that term. Do you have another term? Is it elders, olders? What shall we call them?
Um, I'm not quite sure. I'm working on something right now that I feel we need to put together the young people and the older people, and we have to begin to appreciate each other and be able to help one another. And I think that is really the next issue that we have to look at, and not easily uh, going to be done overnight, of course.
Yes, you want to bring together the Z generation, the what, 19 to 30-year-olds, with the older generation, because our older generation, we keep getting older and older and older. Soon it's going to be 110, 120-year-olds, right? There won't
Well,
be enough letters in the alphabet for the number of generations.
what I just saw 2 days ago was an 88-year-old being interviewed, uh, and he just got married. And he said to his wife that I'm going to live to be 118. He exercises and runs 4 miles a day. And he said, I'm promising you I'll be here for the next 20 years.
I
And
know,
so that's exciting. And
right?
we have to pronounce it more, and get it through that just because you're X doesn't mean you can't do Y.
Right. But you are concerned about how too many, the Z generation specifically, are not tuned into the elderly. Isn't enough interaction between the generations, which you think is very
It's
important.
interaction. And yes, I was just out yesterday or the day before, and talking to a young woman, and Z generation. And she says, "Well, I had no idea." And she, especially if you don't live in a big city where you have more interaction, this is from a smaller town outside of uh, Seattle, and they're they don't have, and because of the pandemic, they haven't had an opportunity to talk, so they do everything through uh, the computer or the phone or
Right. Right. Florence, do you see the screen now under the hat? Florence Klein.
yes.
Okay, we're going to show some of the slides. I mean, your life and careers wonderful in the variety of what you have done and the interest you have and the interest you still have. We probably haven't gotten to another half dozen of the important things you have to say, but let's see some of the photographs that we have. So here's the book, and you've been traveling around because we see you here at a local bookstore, right?
Yes.
And selling the book, and that's a beautiful outfit. Is that chartreuse? I haven't seen chartreuse in a long time.
The hat is yellow, and the jacket is sweater is sort of chartreuse.
Yeah, yeah, that's very
Yeah.
pretty combination. Yeah, yeah. And all right, here's just after you left Robinson, when did you go to Kidder Peabody and Company?
Well, first from Robinson, I went to to uh, Beish and Company, and
Okay.
from Beish and Company, uh, Kidder Peabody hired me as associate manager of the government securities. I then became a vice president of Kidder Peabody, which was a big honor because they didn't have women either, and that
Yeah.
was in '82. So women were
Wow.
still not in the brokerage firms.
All right. And
This
this the chocolate factory?
this is the chocolate factory. Yep. And that Mark Rattan Candies made the wonderful uh, butter creams. And when I bought that, and that's where I had my own place there. I got a card from someone in Arizona, and she said, "Mark Rattan Candy, would you please send me a box of butter creams?" It was so
That
funny.
was funny.
And
Yeah,
today, actually, Amazon, I think, sells buttercreams.
really.
Yeah.
And this is a drawing of one of the loft. Or, did you call them lofts or condos? What did
Yes.
you call
I
them?
call them loss.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
And
This
here,
is
yeah. And this is an article from 1981. Loft idea sweetened by lender. Old candy warehouse saved for new condo apartments. And it tells all about you. We can't see all the wording, but you were becoming famous in Philadelphia.
yeah, I was able to get very nice publicity, yes.
Great. Oh, and this is where you and your husband Len lived.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Sorry I ever sold it.
Oh, so was this the prime spot and the chocolate factory that you developed?
This was well, the chocolate factory had 8 units. One unit, one it was 2 sides, an old building and then a empty lot next to it. And when I developed it, we put them together.
Yeah.
And
So
so
how many rooms, how many room was it? This is an open concept. Was the kitchen also part of this open concept or a separate room?
uh, pretty much open. This was 2,500 square feet. And so on
Hmm.
the other side, they were like 1,400 square feet, the ones that we built. This was the original building, and then they connected with an elevator to the
Nice,
empty lot.
nice. How many bedrooms did you have in this 2,500 square foot unit?
Two
Two.
bedrooms and
Nice,
two bathrooms. Yes. And
nice,
it was, yeah, as you can see, all windows on 2 sides
nice,
because we were on the corner.
beautiful. Okay. And again, this is just one of the ads that you had out from
Yeah.
128.5. Now that's pretty hefty amount in the 80s, right? It was a, nice
No, it was
price.
reasonable. No,
Reasonable?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was. And I say, old city opportunity, buy now. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And now there's another building, the Castings. Tell us
Yes,
briefly about that. You renovated
Castings
that.
has 62 condominiums, and that is the one that uh, is certified nationally, so could never be torn down. And it's quite beautiful. It has, that's the lobby that is really amazing.
Yeah, it is
And
beautiful.
it is really beautiful. It's one that I'm extraordinarily proud of. Yes,
Yes,
it's
beautiful.
the original track was there.
Now, in 1919, somebody wrote a letter from the Breyer Ice Cream Company. That still exists, don't they, Breyer?
Yes, yes, they
And
sell Briars even here in Washington. Briars are sold all over the country.
right. So, where did you find this letter?
Well,
1919.
as I built the castings, I would walk up the place in my heels with my suit on because I was still, also working as a broker, a financial planner. And I found in uh, an area that I walked up into one of the buildings, uh, all these invoices that they had saved.
Hmm.
And uh, they're actually, I'm trying to get them into a place so it will be preserved. The Briar ice cream one. I gave one to CW Post. There was somebody from CW Post accepted it for their archive collection. I actually probably should have
Nice.
call Briars and see if they would like that in their,
Yeah.
many of the big companies do want and the archives from this old.
Yeah. Neat. And again, new jobs in Old City. There you are in this black and white picture. Florence Klein stands in front of Classic Courts, 232 North 3rd Street, one of several projects she is developing in Old City. And so you got, this is 1986. And there you are, always with a hat, right?
Right.
And you wear pantsuits or do you wear only skirts
No,
or both?
well, uh, I wear pants now, but I didn't wear pants when I was working as a
Yeah, yeah,
broker or even when I went down because I had government company,
right,
I always wore suits.
right. People to watch. You're in the magazine. In the newspaper, I think it's 81, Florence Klein, in a field where women are still rare, this successful investment broker is fast gaining a name as a hot new contender in real estate development. She's already turned some old city warehouses into affordable yuppie condos and is now working on a parking garage and office complex in the same neighborhood. Future plans include a fresh look at senior housing as well as some projects along the waterfront. As a whole, there you are. Great. 1987, 87. And oh, this is the same. This is just a screen grab of the same article, just so you can read it a little better. There you are. And was your hair always blonde?
It was originally blonde. No, originally I was a brunette, chestnut color hair. Then I went blonde, and then oh, let me say, 2013. Uh, I was sitting at the table with some friends, and I said, "Well, I think I have to go get my hair colored." And the young woman said to me, "Why, your hair's coming in so great? It's white. Don't guess what?" I said, "Gee whiz, I don't have to go and get it colored anymore, so I just leave it white."
It's a
Or
pretty white, yeah. Not
yes, so
everybody has such a nice white, yeah.
no, no, I'm very fortunate. Yes, yes.
Now this is a magazine, Philadelphia Dressing for Success. We have it here because you are highlighted in this magazine. There you are in your white crepe suit as a stockbroker, right? You
Correct.
remember them doing the story on you in that magazine?
Yes, that was when I was working for Beige, and I still wear that suit once a year on Yom Kippur.
Wow.
Yeah,
How about the shoes? You still have those heels?
I probably still, yeah, I still have those. I don't know if I have those. I don't remember those. I can't see those heels, but I still wear the suit. Right.
Wow. Now, did you wear, here's a good question. When did pantyhose come into use? Were you wearing pantyhose or did you wear those girdle belts for these not the
No,
stockings?
pantyhose, pantyhose.
Pantyhose, yeah. All right. And again, this is what was in the magazine, Count Executive, shown by Penn Center office wearing three-piece, 100% wool crepe suit by Stanley Blacker. Now for women, $325. That was a lot back then. Hats are my
Yes.
trademark. I've always worn them. I have a closet full, all colors. Add a hat to a skirt, sweater, and scarf. I look finished. I never wear slacks to work. I never have. I'm interested in how I look totally, and dresses, suits, or ensembles give a better all-over feeling. Generally, I dress conservatively because that's what I think my clients expect. It's important to be well dressed. You are better received when you walk into an office. You know, that is so true. We live in an era where everybody thinks it's okay to be casual all the time, that there's no demarcation between the teacher and the student. Everybody's on an equal plane, and that's not always true, right?
It's that is so true, and in fact, uh, Bainbridge is very casual, and and uh, I I said, you know, some days I don't want to be so casual. Why? What do I want to get rid of the clothes anyway, so I might as well
Right.
wear them. Yeah.
Uh, this was what you put in May 2019. You started doing modeling, and you've been in shows, and we could go have a whole show just on your desire to be an actress in entertainment. But this is what you put in: age range 66 to 80. This was in 2019, and you got a job. Look at that. There you are. You're modeling that dress, right?
Yeah, it's a vintage dress.
Wow, beautiful. You get paid for that job?
Oh yeah, a lot of money, like
Good,
maybe
good.
$110 or so. I mean,
All
it's
right.
the advantage I find in modeling. It's interesting because I get emails every day, but number one, now I don't have the time with I'm busy with my book, but I meet a very different kind of people when you go to a either a play or a but if you're just going to model, it's a very different type of people that I have never met before, and so I enjoy that meeting uh, different people
Yeah.
more
Neat.
than getting. Yes, it's fun.
So here's all about the Silver Planet, the Gazette, local woman start site for senior citizens. And silverplanet.com is a international site, February 29. And here's something that was important to you about the prison project, the Philly project. It's created by grassroots efforts. The uniqueness is its commitment to the transition of inmate to parolee to employee to productive citizen. It engages the community as well as the ex-offenders in training, support, and jobs. And you described that when you were doing that work. Ah, there you are as a brunette, right?
Yes.
And is that your husband on next to you?
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
the blonde sitting next to you is
Uh, just a friend that we
a
went to.
friend?
Yeah. It must have gone to a prom, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And then, is that you in this gray blue gown?
No, I'm not in here.
You're not in that picture. I'm looking, it
That's
didn't
my
look like
daughter.
you.
Yeah, that's my
That's your
daughter, Kim,
daughter.
and they, all
All right,
three
so
of us.
who's this on the right in the coral dress? Is that your granddaughter?
Yes, that's the youngest granddaughter. She's 22.
And this is your Kim's
Charlene,
husband?
y-
Yeah,
and, and this is the husband
yes.
next, and that's my son-in-law who's married to my daughter in the blue dress. And that was in
Okay.
June 20, 22,
Okay, so this
2022.
is Kim. And who's in the black dress next to Kim?
The oldest granddaughter,
Oh,
Botnia.
the oldest granddaughter, and then the granddaughter in the white is getting married.
Right. And
And
she's
that's her
now
husband.
pregnant with her first.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And here are you with
The
three good
same
friends?
wedding. And
Yeah. Oh,
my oldest daughter, Karen, is from the blue, and my sister-in-law is in the black, and she's a jewelry designer. And that was
oh,
the same wedding a
same
year
wedding.
a year and a half ago.
Now here you are in this picture. Is this your ex-husband, Len?
Yes.
And is this your grandson on next to you?
Yes, that's the youngest grandson.
And
And
is this his dad, your son here at the end?
yes,
And
yes.
who was the person next to your son?
That is a friend of my ex-husband, Len.
Okay,
She's
nice.
99 and doing great. And she came from,
Wow. How
yes.
old is Len now?
Len is 92,
Wow.
93.
And we
Yes.
didn't mention that your second husband died. You did lose him. He died.
Yes, he did.
But you were not, the marriage was not a totally successful one over the years, right?
No, I stayed too long, but we were together 11 years.
Okay. And all right. Where are you? Is this you? Oh, this
This
is
is
you.
this is me.
Yeah. And who is this in the
This is
red?
my Len's mother,
Okay.
and this is was Kim's bas mitzvah, and this is my
Oh,
mother,
okay.
and this is my mother.
Oh, that's your mother. Ah, okay. All right.
Yeah,
So who's the young man standing? Is it grandson?
yeah. This is that grandson that got married. That
Oh,
no,
wow.
not got married. The one you just saw, the graduating from college.
Oh, okay. Oh,
That's
here he is. That's
yeah,
him, right?
yeah,
With your
and
son. Yeah.
this is my son. Yes, yeah.
And there you are traveling. You like traveling
I
at the
love.
Taj Mahal.
Yes,
Yeah. All right. I think we're coming to the end. What do I have? Oh, there you are again. Again, back to the book. And then the last photo, there you are. I love that photo. Uh, in all of that. There you can see it's more yellow than chartreuse, the hat anyway. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go back and back to the screen and have some final thoughts. There's so much we can talk about. One thing that I want you to mention is you talk a lot about courage because I think so many young women today, a lot of people say lack the confidence in themselves and the courage to move on. And I know that you quote Eleanor Roosevelt in your book, and I like her thoughts about how to be courageous. Every day you should try something new that you've never done before, and you should always try to do one thing that you're afraid of. Having the courage to get over that fear is a special gift. So tell me your thoughts on having the courage that you've had during your life to forge ahead and do so many things independently.
Um, I wasn't afraid, uh, and um, I wasn't consumed with myself. I was just interested in learning and making a difference. And that's what's important to me.
Yeah. So I want to do the lightning round. We did this in Philadelphia and it's a lot of fun. And maybe you remember some of the questions from the lightning round. So just it's nice to give a spontaneous thought to what I'm asking. So let me ask you the lightning round, Florence. So, question: my childhood in Philadelphia was
um, Interesting and pleasant.
okay. My mother's life taught me that
I had to take care of myself.
the hardest thing about marriage is
Learning to remember the other person and their needs.
yeah. The hardest thing about raising children is
To let them have their own lives.
mm, I always wear hats because
Part of who I am. It made a statement and still
yeah.
does.
My favorite color is, I guess what that is.
Red.
Red. Yes. Okay. I got that. Of my 6 careers, so we have to say them again: stockbroker, developer, Silver Planet website, actress and model, and author. I only have 5. What am I missing? I only have 5.
Volunteer in
Oh,
prison.
volunteer prison
This
work. Right, that's the sixth career.
prison.
All
Yeah.
right. Of my 6 careers, my favorite is
Developing buildings. It's
mm,
most creative.
mhm. The thing I wish I'd done more of is
Um, had more school. I'd go back today.
mm, the thing I wish I'd done less of is
Think I've done less of. Um, Less of. Um, that.
too hard. You answer. I don't remember what you said in Philadelphia, but you did answer that. I don't remember what you said, but
What I think I've done less. What I would have done less of. Of
I wish I'd done less of. I guess you were perfect. You did everything that you
no,
needed to
but less
do.
of always want to do more of. Uh,
Right.
and get more involved. Less of what do I want? Always want to do more, so never less of. Be more specific. I should be so less so many things at once.
Okay. All right. Um, yeah, we talked about just hanging out. Maybe you want to do you think you expressed a little bit that you've been so busy with so many projects, which you love, but on the other hand, you don't like hang out. Just hang out without any
It's hard.
philosophy, without yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard for you. You have a hard time hanging out.
I need to hang out more. That's right.
Right. So you need more hanging out and less of doing too much. I guess you could say we could do that. We could say that. All right. The thing I would do if I could start over is,
I would go into a different career,
which is,
into probably psychiatry.
oh, that's interesting. Okay. I want to be remembered for,
The differences I've made with people.
okay. The best advice I ever got. I mean, one of the things you told me is that you did lack mentors. You had to be your own self-propelling person. So, but somebody along the way must have given you advice. So the best advice I ever got was,
I guess from my uncle Emil.
yeah. What did he say? What was his advice?
Well, I write it in a book to be aware that I was in a world that would not necessarily be favorable to me as a woman.
Good. And how about the best advice I ever gave is, so the best advice I give is,
Be your own person and find out who you are as early as you can.
okay, just a couple more. My energy and my passion come from,
Um, the that I have been able to have such good health and
mm,
and to enjoy such a wonderful family and my children and my
and,
grandchildren.
and how about young women today need to,
Have courage.
mm, and the last one on this lightning round is, my secret of graceful aging is,
That I look forward, not back.
that's fantastic. You are a force of nature. It's wonderful to have you. Do you have any final? I'm going to give you 1 minute of some final thoughts as we say goodbye. And of course, ask people to uh, get your book because it's a fun read as well as an interesting read to see somebody who's approaching 90 years on this earth who's contributed so much in so many different endeavors in life. Final
Just
thoughts.
go forward, everyone. Look forward. Don't look back. Look forward and
Wonderful.
keep
Okay.
smiling.
All right.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Sheila.
All right. Florence, we'll talk to you soon. And for
Absolutely.
everyone, uh, till next time on Talk Back. Bye. Bye, Florence. See you later.
Bye.